The gist of this entire presentation is pretty simple. Can Agile actually be done in operations? A lot of us in various organizations, we have senior management, C-suite, coming down and saying, we need to change our programs to follow Agile methodologies. Mainly because, for better or worse, they may have read the Sutherland's books, Scrum, How to Do Twice the Work in Half the Time, which is quite literally a terrible title for the average worker there, because it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody can achieve that. But coming from the basis there, outside of the general Agile Manifesto, what is it in the first place? There's 12 guiding principles regarding Agile in this case. It's basically the highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. In this case, you do smaller production runs in order to achieve this. Welcome to changing requirements, even late in development. The idea is with these smaller production runs, you're more able to accept change in the actual program. Deliver working software frequently for a couple of weeks or months of time with a preference for short timescales. We see this most commonly with Scrum. We've got sprints going from 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks on average for that are being done. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Simple. It's not, in this case, it's management and the employees, the analysts and so on there, have to simply put work together for this. It's not it's not that they're leading and that's it. There's input from, there has to be continuous input from management to the team, and vice versa, from the team to management for this. The face-to-face conversation, right now it's a little bit iffy due to work from home and so on for that there, but it does work. Ideally, you can it can be set up as team chats, and similar for Scrum, we have the morning meetings where we all meet up and see where we're at for this. The key takeaway is, more than anything, is keeping a line of conversation and communication going for this. Working software is the primary measure of progress. Basically, you ship products that work. The idea is you don't have to. You don't have to ship the entire product or that. Or you ship parts of it as long as they work. So in this case, subdividing the project work into something smaller, always helps. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain constant pace indefinitely. Basically, don't overwork yourself. You've got 40 hours a week of work. You should not be doing work outside of that. It's too much. You're going to be burning out. The entire idea behind Agile is not really to do twice, like it says, twice the work in half the time. It's to gradually increase the performance of a team without necessarily having to increase overtime expenditures for that, and even just general stress on the team for this. It's in reality, it's trying to optimize the process of what you're doing. And here, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential in your projects. You're going to be looking, saying, how much actually needs to be done? What do we need to implement for this? This is the part where you actually start cutting down the size and scope of a project. So not as a whole, but in sections. You implement part of it, good, make sure it's running. You start implementing the second part as a continuation for that. You make sure that the parts, that the sections that you're doing go up to a whole product or whole solution in a certain amount of time. It doesn't matter the interest is not to burn out and making sure that you're not doing too much stuff all at the same time. You're configuring a SIM and also ingesting new sources of logs and generating new alarms at the same time. Yeah, you're going to be overworked. You're going to be flooded with alerts that you have no idea how to resolve. That's against the idea of simplicity in this case. And you're going to be firefighting more than actually doing the work to implement the SIM. Best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organization of teams. In this case, talk to people on the ground. If you're a manager or leading teams, ask them, what do you think of the tools? What are we doing wrong in our processes? Talk to them, get their opinions on what can be improved, because they are the people who are primarily solving these questions and everything that's being done. Your job, if you're in management, is to listen to them and see if the ideas they provide have any value, and you can push to upper management to get approval for that. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective and tunes and adjusts this behavior accordingly. Same thing with what I was going on before. Set up times to listen to that. You're doing a sprint to every 2 sprints, 3 sprints, or whatever you want for that, just as long as it's regular. Hold a team meeting and say, hey, let's see what we're doing wrong. What can we improve on for this? Overall in the process, I'm not talking about just a Scrum or the general project for that, but on every single process that a company is, well, not a company, but an organization is doing in security operations. The origins of Agile. Agile is old, surprisingly old. It technically originates from around the 1990s, but the foundations go back to the 1980s and 1970s, primarily through the theory of constraints by Goldratt. For this, any system is limited from achieving more of its goals by small number of constraints, and by focusing to identify and restructure the organization around them, we limit their impact. We're going to have people who are overworked, who have tons of tasks being sent to them. They're a constraint. We might have to be working with other teams and waiting for them to complete the task that we assign to them. Those are constraints and also dependencies for that. We have to work around those concepts for this. Basically, identify the constraints, the bottlenecks. Decide how to exploit them. Exploiting them in project management means, can we use them to keep them as is and use them to improve our work? Or do we see about finding a way to get rid of them or anything? Subordinate everything to the above decision. How are you going to deal with the constraints? That's the final decision on improving the process for that. Elevate the system's constraints. Make sure that those constraints are, if you can't get rid of them or you have to work around them, make sure those constraints are always worked around and identified in projects or tasks that are going to be done. Making sure that either the person or the team is not overloaded because of that one single constraint. If the constraint breaks, which is it's eliminated, you go back to step 1, simply because there's going to be other constraints underneath it. Other stuff will come out there. Don't just go with inertia saying, oh yeah, this thing's fixed and we can go on as is. New things will be popping up. Find the stuff, find what's next underneath that and work around that. The theory of constraints also advocates keeping the inventory of products low. In this case, it's manufacturing. You can't make new inventory when you can't sell it. It's going to be sitting around. You're going to be paying to keep it in the shop, warehouse, or anything there. At the same time, your in-work inventory has to be also kept low by small batches. If you're not selling the stuff that you're making immediately, you're going to fill up inventory with half-made products. In this case, what is inventory? What is the product? In our case, incidents and tickets. Work is transforming one thing into another. We transform tickets incidents and tasks from things that need to be done with by doing work. That's simply put. This is the actual product that we work on. It's tickets. That's all our inventory for that. The time to process an element of inventory is key to finding where the bottlenecks appear. SLAs, KPIs, there you go. Inventory is anything that requires labor to create or modify. And like I said, it's tickets, incidents, tasks from teams, other people that matter in this case, that we have to work on. Continuing on with the origins of Agile, the Toyota way. First aspect, continuous improvement. The first case is challenging. Long-term vision for a company or program. This is a little bit weird for most of us. It's not the idea of saying, oh, we want to be the best cybersecurity team out there. Yeah, that's unattainable, that's generic or that there. You need an actual specific goal that you want to reach, which maybe it's impossible, but it creates a specific path to actually achieve it. Say in security, in security operations here, the goal is to respond to any new IOC that's published online, to create detection rules, block ways to block it, and secure our systems within an hour of publication. That everything is done, that we have the IOCs in every AV, we have alerts in our SIM, we have automations implemented to actually identify it, delete it, or handle it there. Everything's done within an hour after it's been published. It's an idealistic vision for that there, and most likely nobody's going to actually obtain it. But it is a realistic goal that your team can push for. Kaizen. We've heard of this a lot of the time. Continuous improvement for this. Gejigebatsu. Go to source to find the facts and make the correct decisions. You have a problem, go, in this case, there's a person that's taking too much time on for his work, or he has too many tasks being assigned to them. Go to them, talk with them, find out how you can help them out for this. If it's another team that's slowing you down, go talk with the management there, see what's the problem. Work with them. Respect for people. Respect for others, and take responsibility to do our best to build mutual trust in a team. One of the biggest issues that I see in teams is saying if we try to build trust, we also try to assign blame to if something fails. Oh, you didn't find this. You let this phishing ticket go through. Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. You might be overloaded with the number of tickets there, so you have ticket fatigue there. Shit happens. Find the reason why. If it's human error, okay. Maybe you can automate it there for that. If it's too many tickets, ticket fatigue, see how you can fix that. Those are that's the respect that for teamwork in this case. I'm sorry, respect for others in a team. Teamwork. Stimulate personal and professional growth. Share opportunities of development and maximize individual and team performance. Training. Give opportunities for people to learn. Mentor them. Give them find training solutions there. Potentially have them work with other teams to see what they're doing for that. Always provide growth opportunities for that, because the more that your team knows, the wider their breadth of experiences, they potentially can help out on improvements better. The right process. Create a process that can bring problems to service. This is key. Most of us are have projects going on. We're throwing things left and right, past a wall to see what sticks, and hopefully things don't break. That's literally working without a process. You have to create a process to identify where things are going wrong. Use a pull system to avoid overproduction. So you have tickets here. It's a question now. Are you guys, is your team being forced to assign 50 tickets each day, every person, without any consideration for the amount of work that they can do or that? Or are they pulling the tickets themselves? In this case, the amount of work that's being done or so on there should be controlled by the employee, the user, the analyst there. But it needs to be a level of trust that they know that they're actually doing the work for this. Level out the workload. Don't overwork workers. Same thing. Build a culture where it's okay to stop a process in order to fix it when problems are identified. You find something that's broken for that, you stop all analysis on tickets that were generated for that completely. Find out what happened and then go back on analyzing them. If you keep on going saying, oh yeah, it's broken, we'll get to it, you won't get to it. Standardize tasks and processes. Same thing. When you know the process of what you're doing, how you're supposed to be doing things, especially playbooks, for example, those help out a lot. Use visual control so no problems are hidden. In this case, visual control is actually looking at the problem. In this case, you can consider this playbooks. You can have playbooks in various sources, in a Word document or anything there. But if your playbooks are running as stories, as actual processes in your ticketing system, yeah, the user has to keep an eye on on doing every actual step to do this. Use already tested technology. Don't simply put, don't reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's cheaper to actually pay for something for that and get it in production, running everything there, and people trained up. It'll be faster than trying to rebuild the entire thing and paying money for developers to actually try to duplicate functionality. Add value to organization. Grow leaders who understand the work, live the philosophy, and teach. Help people. Make sure your managers follow the basics there for respect and identifying these features of Agile for this. Develop people and teams who follow the company's philosophy. You have a company culture there. Make sure it's good and make sure that the team follows it there. Respect partners and suppliers by challenging and helping them improve. You see your products that you're buying from another company have bugs, they're half finished or that there. Yeah, just don't go yelling at them saying, hey, you know, your stuff is crap. It's not finished. It's not done. Say, hey, you can really improve your product if you put this feature in that. It'll help us a lot and potentially allow your customers to improve your product and potentially better sell it for that. Work with them, not just blame them. Continuously solve root problems drives organizational learning. When you find a problem or incident there, you do the postmortem, learn from that. Simply put this. The entire organization has to be orient itself around that. Any problems, any issues, you have to learn from them, either as analysts, managers, or heck, even the C-suite. It's basically, in the end, it's basically project management, up to a point without the project managers. Every plan fails when confronted with the enemy. The further you plan out work, the more of a chance unexpected work or circumstances will wreck your schedule. As you know, Gantt charts don't last a week usually. Waterfall works when plans don't change for this. Increasing flexibility means breaking work up into smaller and more manageable chunks. Iterate based on chunk size. Work with team leads management here. The chunk size is key. You have to know how much needs to be done. And out of these methodologies, you've got the usual letter jumble: Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban. In general, for this Scrum, you keep a lower number of team members, 3 to 9, mainly because communication is a lot easier and everybody's on the same page. Kanban, Scrumban, people are more independent in what they're doing for this. Team roles, Scrum, members assign different roles and responsibilities. Kanban, you've got generalists, people are picking up work as it comes. Scrumban, everybody's doing whatever they can for this. Work cycles, Scrum. You've got sprints that last from anything from 1 to 4 weeks. Kanban, continuous workflow. Scrum Ban, 2-week iterations with continuity. You have tasks which spill over to the next week for that. It's not that the tasks are not done, but they might just take a little bit more time overall for this. There's no penalty in that case. Rules, Scrum is strict regarding the rules. You can't add a new work once a sprint is started for that. Kanban, relaxed, flexible, throw stuff on the backlog, people will pick it up and work on it. Scrum Ban, it's a little bit in the middle for that. You've got the iterations for that. Ideally, you shouldn't be adding too much work in the middle for that, but it's flexible to allow new stuff to be added. Task assignment, there are separate tasks are assigned by 2 team members. Kanban team members choose the work based off what's needed first, and Scrum Ban in general, team members choose whatever they want to do based off of their teams or projects for that. Limits, everything is based all around the current sprint in Scrum. You can't add new stuff in, you can't really take off anything for that there. Limits here in Kanban, it's a work in progress. You don't overload yourself or your staff. Everybody's doing a certain amount of work, make sure that they're always working on something, and that's it. Scrum Ban, limits are placed on work in progress. You've got same thing with Kanban. You don't overload your team on the tasks that are there, even though there might be a 2-week limit to actually complete them. Your usual Scrum meetings, sprints 1 to 4 weeks. Sprint planning, first day of sprint. Product owner, Scrum Master, Scrum team, which means product owner, your manager. Scrum Master, the guy who's stuck with the job. And the Scrum team, everybody else in the team. Potentially an hour, depending on team size. And the only objective is set the sprint goal. What tasks are you going to be doing in these next 2 weeks or so on? Daily scrums. As the name goes, daily. You've got the Scrum Master and the Scrum team. The product owner or product manager is not included on these meetings. They're supposed to be informal, lasting no more than 15 minutes. And the main questions we have, what did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? Do you have any blockers or issues that are coming across and need help? Sprint review, it's done at the end of a sprint. Scrum team, Scrum owner, Scrum Master, everybody for that. It can last 2 to 4 hours. In this case, for development, you do a demo of the work done. Also, user stories, confirm and decide on incomplete ones. Do we close the incomplete ones and issue new tasks or new user stories for that? Or do we get rid of them? And we take a look at the backlog, what can we push back into backlog, or if there's anything new that's been added. Sprint retrospective. This one's also between the review and planning meeting. The entire idea is everybody's in this, but it's at this point it just looks at the process. You know, what went wrong that we failed to do all our tasks? Why? How can we improve on this? What was done well also? Backlog refinement. Every other week, it depends on the duration of the sprint. Same thing, everybody included. No defined duration. In this case here, it's just prioritized backlog items. What's in the backlog? Are we still doing these things? Do we still need them? Align, in this case, backlogs to KPIs there. Are the tests that we're doing really needed for our work for this that we planned out, or have things changed also? And appropriate sizing of backlog items. Is the amount of work, the size of the items in the backlog, can you do them in a day or less? Or they take you 5 or 6 days? That's the question. Can you do them in a sprint? Verify the items that are listed in the backlog can actually be done for that. And eventually adding more detail to backlog, what is actually the task that's supposed to be done, instead of just writing a single title for that. Agile isn't simply a methodology for that, so stay away from cargo cult Agile. An organization wants to implement Agile, can't just order the use of Scrum or Kanban across the board. Every operations team will have different organizational and business requirements for this. It's a two-way street. The methodologies can be implemented partially or in a hybrid manner. But institutional organization must also change to give project managers, product owners, team leads more initiative to initiate and lead changes for this. So you have to give more power to people below you as much as having people up top saying that they want to do the organization to be agile. Scrum can also help grow your team. It's not necessary, but it can help in team evolution. You've got the usual stages of team development: forming and storming. More structured work environment is beneficial. Norming. As people get used to working together and their tools, the structure can be eased as needed. Performing. Less outright structure is needed as team members know what they're supposed to do and are active in choosing tasks to complete. They're self-managing at that point. Adjourning or changes in structure. Other than closing teams, people will come and go. So it might be useful to re-implement some of the more structured elements in Scrum and so on there to identify issues with the team organization and to be used as corrective measures if things are starting to go off regarding team performance. Actually putting Agile to work, DevOps. The culmination of Agile in the development world. In development, the culmination of Agile can be said to be DevOps. DevOps has the same principles as Agile, while not necessarily following the strict methodologies. It defines objectives regarding the types of work and the techniques used to achieve them. It expects good knowledge of what the team members are doing and creating, implementing tools that can, implement tools that can implement changes frequently. The biggest talk on DevOps the past couple of years is the famous one, I believe, 10 changes a day. I don't remember the actual full title for that, but it's from the Flickr team from around 2008. The idea is that they were pushing out more than 10 changes every day to their code base on their website frequently. And the question is, how many changes are you pushing out in your organization? I'm not talking about development, but actually changes in platforms and so on there. How often are you doing that there? How in one day, how many things are being done like that? That's a question. And the basis for that we see is the software development lifecycle. Types of work and priorities, the 4 types of work. This is from Gene Kim's Phoenix Project and DevOps Handbook. Business projects, generally highest priority. Business initiatives, most of development work. Internal IT projects, highest priority. Infrastructure and IT operations. Updates and changes, normal priority, often generated from the previous types of work. And unplanned work or recovery work, which should be limited as much as possible. Incidents and problems generated by other work. And here's the kicker. Incidents should be limited or eliminated. So that basically means that by DevOps, we're out of a job. But here we go. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means prioritizing certain types of work. Systems thinking and flow of work. Work goes from one direction to in only one direction. Never flows backward based off of what's in an organization. If something goes back to the same person to be fixed or something like that, then there's a problem. For that, you identify why it flowed back and fix the process. Amplify feedback loops. Learn from current process and find improvements. Implement improvements into the process. See what can be improved. Can you work faster, better, add in automations for that? This is the initial feedback loop. Experimentation. Try multiple ways of improving processes and work. Can you automate these things in different ways? Can you use different tools in that you have in your organization to do the automations or do the same task there? Which one is better? This is most commonly known in development, it's A and B testing, for the, which I would say Facebook is famous for. DevOps foundations and security. DevSecOps, from the priorities, there's a difference between enterprise and MSSP work. In enterprise environments, enterprise and team projects take priority for that. Maintenance and operation work, tasks for other teams, installation of software, etc., is lower priority. Incidents take engineers away from improvements that should be limited. 80% of the project and ops work, 20% incident work. How do we get there? Automate incidents and operations to meet KPIs and team SLAs. For an MSSP, it's a different story. Maintenance operations work can be handled separately from the team compared to security monitoring. Incidents are the main work done. In this case, it's the opposite for this. 80% incident work, 20% identifying improvements. Based on the agreements with other organizations, apply automations and process improvements to meet KPIs and SLAs. If you can do automations for that, great. It'll depend, but it may depend on your contract with another organization. Starting to change to Agile, people, process, tools. Change has to come from both the top, senior management, and within the teams themselves. Identify all the processes that your team is involved with. That is tasks received from other teams, incidents that you do, and how to resolve them. Common operations work for that. It's your day-to-day work that you usually find out there. SOAR is your friend. Never too early to start. You're building up a new security operations program. Hey, great for you. Once you set up the SIM, the second thing is set up the SOAR environment. For that, you literally have to start from that early. Playbooks in Word, SharePoint, OneNote, or a wiki, they're fine, but they don't force analysts to actually follow through with them for this. Use playbooks that are generated through your ticketing system, like the security operations module in ServiceNow. Force analysts to follow the workflow, ensuring repeatability. And it also creates the foundations for automating incident response process. When you already have the playbook that everybody has to follow it there, that's the basics. You can add in automations into each step sequentially as you need them and as you can. Constraints and bottleneck. Time is literally money. IT operations often doesn't have money bottlenecks regarding infrastructure. That is, commands, tasks taking too much time on a computer. But there's one bottleneck that's universal: man-woman hours of work. Don't expect 8 hours of fully productive work from a person. Lose 2 hours for lunch, breaks, and meetings. Consider the first hour and last hour as half productivity. People are still waking up, coming in from traveling, or they're getting ready to go home and thinking about what they need to do at home for this. 4 hours, so in this case, it's 4 hours of fully productive work, 2 hours at 50% productivity, and 2 hours of zero productivity. Also find the people who are always being called out to put out fires, or take the most work on them. Get them to delegate those tasks so that they are not overloaded. From process to pipeline, identify the work process, find improvements, rinse and repeat. Knowing your team's work process is foundational. You literally have to know what work is done and how it's done. Interactive playbooks are a first step to standardize work. Identify dependencies, where other teams are needed to actually do work, and constraints. Either one of your coworkers needs to do the job, and they're overloaded. Implement improvements. Automate parts of the playbooks. Talk to other teams. Request that the other teams automate some of their work that's related to your work. That way, not only do you save time for your own team to meet SLAs, you do the same. You help the other team do the same thing. You get you find the lowest branches and lowest fruit, and pick them. If incident response to alerts has been fully automated, create new alerts based on the frequency of the automated ones to find discrepancies to normal daily flow for this. New services, products, technologies are implemented regularly. So you start this thing all over again. The software development life cycle here. It's not it. Sorry? The software development lifecycle, which would be the SIM development lifecycle in this case, it follows the same line of the software development lifecycle. Planning, identify IOCs that you want to create an alert for. Research the IOCs and analysis. Design, identify the availability of log sources to see if the IOCs would be visible. Implementation, write the initial query alert for the SIM, ideally in a code repository with version tracking. Testing and integration, test the query to the SIM for existing indicators from the log archive. If it's successful that you found something, push the query into the SIM as a new alert rule. If you didn't find anything, push it into the SIM and set up so that the any alerts generated go straight to you for this. And at that time, and after all this, assign a purple team member to write test articles on a dedicated machine to confirm that the alert will actually fire. Create a custom script that will set off that alert on a known machine that you're using for this testing. For this, you know the alert fires, great. You know that you can detect it at that point. If you just write alert and you don't do any testing of it, sure, you wrote a new alert, but it has no meaning if it doesn't. If you can't test it if it works. Maintenance. Run regular drills, making sure that all the known alerts are able to be detonated at will by the team to make sure everything works correctly. Your usual fire drills. You've got a server that has all the purple team stuff set up to launch, to run through every script every quarter. See in the logs, did all the alerts fire off of that there? If something didn't fire, well, you've got a problem. It's either the logic in the detonation software didn't work, or it's the alert logic that failed there. You've got something to fix. And interestingly enough, this using the software development lifecycle is actually one of the design is one of the scenarios described by Microsoft for automating Sentinel integration. Okay, yeah, here's the full there. Ticket metrics, the subtle art proving a team's work. Number of tickets closed is a disingenuous metrics. It takes into it doesn't take into consideration the difficulty or the result, true positive or false positive. Automatically assigning tickets to users randomly is good, but you can't use to count how many tickets they closed as a measure for employee performance. You don't know how hard the tickets are. One employee can get tons of difficult tickets, and they're going to do 3 tickets in a week. While another couple employees get 10 or 20 tickets that are easy, and they finish them out without any problems. So your metrics are broken either way. Pick and pull tickets at discretion also doesn't work. As employees with experience can identify the easy tickets and hoard them. So you find the easy ones. Hey, yeah, these are usually always false positives. Check, yeah, false positive, false positive, false positive. Easily, you've got 20 tickets there. You've met your quota, and that's it. And everybody else is scrambling, and you're saying, "I did it. Why can't you?" How about classifying tickets based on priority level, critical, medium, high, low, and assigning point value to them for that? It can help, but the frequency of occurrence of these tickets and the results, true or false positives, still aren't considered. Critical tickets aren't going to be coming in daily or that there. If they are, you've got other problems to deal with for that. But users can still game them. But Scrum has one interesting feature called planning poker. You assign a weight for a task based on the amount or difficulty of work to complete it. Assigning a separate weight to true positive incidents and false positive incidents can normalize the amount of work done between team members. So you have a different weighting for if the incident is a false positive when it's closed, or if it's a true positive, because the amount of work varies. Planning poker. Sitting for Scrum to make metrics work. It's actually simple. It's usually done during backlog refinement. Values are decide how much work a task takes, and never how much time it would. We're terrible at estimating time for this. That's why I'm looking to see how much time I have on my talk. But we're more visually oriented. We can see if something's big, small, a lot, or little for that. And that tends to be more accurate. Planning poker uses generally a modified Fibonacci sequence to estimate work. 0, it's already done. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 40, 100 for that, based on difficulty levels. The main reason for this is it's a little bit easier to estimate size or that there by having wider spaced values. The thing is though, when you do this, you literally don't take into consideration any SLAs or KPIs when you're deciding this. You just see how much work it actually takes. But here, one thing that I didn't add on this, but you actually, the work that, when you look at the work for tickets or so there, you only consider the work your team does. Any dependencies of work that needs to be done by another team, you totally ignore that. Because it doesn't matter, because you can't control that, and the only work that matters to you is the work that your team does. I'll get to that in a second, why. But the key is here, the law of averages, and then comes to our rescue regarding metrics. Averages and standard deviations. Standard deviation, you sum every value, subtract, you get the sum of every value subtracted by the average squared, divided by the number of values, -1, and the square root of that. It's basic statistics for us to remember here, but it's useful to know. The standard deviation shows where different tasks start taking too much time or too little time. Out of bounds tickets. When response times exceed standard deviation. You can say 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviations. You decide how much you want for that there. When they take more time, dependencies can, there's stuff that you can identify. Why? Dependencies can be to blame. Team members are waiting for other teams to complete associated work. Yeah, so your ticket is open, but you're still waiting for the other team to get back to you with completing their own a sub-ticket for this, or a child ticket there. You can't control that. Your ticket is still open, and you're still working on it. Or potentially, the employee might need additional training, or it's a new team member and needs to improve. They're still getting the ropes to learn. You see that their completion of the tickets take more time than everybody else's for that. These are should be relatively easy filters you can apply in Jira or ServiceNow when you're looking at tickets and metrics for that. Or potentially there's a problem with the tool that the team uses for that. Something's broken, simply. These can be the first targets to quickly improve SLA's results by automation. So the ones that exceed that, automate them. Find the ones that exceed that. You can bring the entire time to close the tickets down. It will help you meet your SLAs that way. The ones that are that fall most out of that, they're the lowest fruit to take on. But what about when tickets take less time? Negative standard deviation. Well, one good thing, an employee found a way to automate it there. They're actually automating the work and doing it for that, and they just are shy or haven't told them, or are just cheesing the system to make to keep their workload low while keeping their tickets high. This way, you can see, hey, they made something good. What do? Congratulate them, and see about standardizing their procedure for that. They saved your team money for that. You can go up to your upper management, the C-suite there, say, hey, this guy knows what they're doing. They're implementing improvements that save us time and money. Or the opposite. Employee has been closing tickets without actually doing the work. So that's a question. Do they need retraining? Or should you start monitoring their work closer? Or firing them? Track the averages. This is where the law of averages comes into play. The average time it takes a job with a certain estimation of effort, playing poker value, even when not linked to KPIs or SLA, can provide valuable information on a team. As a team evolves, forming, storming, norming, performing, the average time it takes to work should drop month to month. This includes performance improvements done with automations and improvements done in conjunction with other teams for this. This shows your improvement over the month as the process goes. Time saved, money saved. Doing more tickets in less time and improved efficiency means management can offer a measure of money saved over time to senior leaders at an organization. We're cost centers for any company for that. We could say that we saved this much of money by automating our processes, by doing and being able to do more work. Hey, that's good news for them. We don't get our budget cut. We can say, hey, we might be able to do this even more if we get these other tools. Changes to teams also can raise the averages. See how fast they start dropping again. Seeing how fast they drop again can indicate how well the team is working together. You've got new people coming in and people coming and going there. New people come in, times will increase. See how fast the times start dropping again. So going from this here, there's a number of useful books I found. The three main ones: The Goal, A Process of Ongoing Improvement by Goldratt. Gene Kim's book, The Phoenix Project, is basically based around that. Toyota Kata by Mike Rother, covering the Toyota methodology, and the DevOps Handbook by Gene Kim. Another book that's useful in my opinion, since security can be also considered a creative enterprise. We're all makers in one way or another. We mess around with stuff, and we have to find weird, sometimes solutions to non-standard problems. I really suggest the book Creativity Inc. Overcoming Unseen Forces That Stand in the Way of True Inspiration by Ed Catmull. It's basically the Pixar story and how they ran Pixar from the start to roughly after the Disney buyout. And if you've read The Goal, Toyota Kata, DevOps Handbook, you're going to be hearing a lot of that stuff in the Pixar book for that. Just mention on how it's being used in a creative enterprise for that. They're making movies, they're making art. They're actually using a lot of these techniques from agile methodologies and other stuff to actually do their work. certs. So, work wants to see what you can do. There's Scrum, useful if you're the Scrum Master, just to say that you have that qualification. Personally, I would suggest getting the Professional Scrum Master cert rather than the Certified Scrum Master, CSM1. There's been a wide divide between that, and the creators of Scrum actually left the organization that created the Certified Scrum Master exam and created their own organization competing for that there. It's a long story. Look it up for that. It's actually an interesting read for that. Regarding Agile, anything from the Project Management Institute. Like it or not, they've done a good job overall on that there. And if you don't have the work history to be a PMP, CompTIA Project Plus there. It's cheap, it's available, you don't need any work history as a project leader there. And it gives you a really good idea of what is project management overall. And with that, thank you. I'll be uploading this with slightly edited slides for typos and everything here on my SlideShare for this. And thanks for attending the talk, and hopefully provided some value to everybody. Any questions or anything? Go ahead. Yeah, there's the PMI ACP, the certification also there. No, but but in part you can. There's some other potential certifications for that there. But the CompTIA one, if depending on what your organization does, it's a cost-effective one. It gives you the basics for that. There are cheaper exams from the PMI, from the Project Management Institute. The PMI ACP. There's one just below that, below the PMP, which is I think $200 or $400. You don't need as many years of experience in project management there, and it counts as training for the PMP for that there. So there's a growth way to grow into the PMP for that there. So there's less of that. I'm talking about the CompTIA stuff. It's a good base, is the starting point for that. If you've never done project management there, going head into the actual hard stuff there, you're gonna have some difficulty in understanding. The Project Plus comes in for a much gentler slope, and it goes into the newer versions go into Agile more in depth, and I would say it's very good value for the money, especially if you're not trying to be a project manager per se, but working as in security operations or a general manager that just has to know what the heck they're supposed to be doing at this point when the company says we're going Agile. Yeah. Okay. One more question? 1 second here. Yep.
Something I've noticed a lot where in places I've worked that do Agile is I walked in a little late here. It was talking about ways to assign tickets to people. You have where you can randomly assign it to people, which can be good, but that ends up with a lot of overhead where you have people getting things they're not familiar with. And then there are, the freely taking from the queue, where it's set to some team members can end up hoarding things that are easy or perceived as easy to them, and that can kind of rob training. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like where to find a balance there? We do like some carrots, but
well, for balance, technically, like I said, if you give a certain value for tickets and incidents for that there, with planning poker, you can set up so that you can give the tickets randomly there, but make sure that the sum of those values that everybody gets in a day or so there is roughly the same. So some might get higher difficulty tickets, some might get lower difficulty there, but the work that's being done should roughly be the same between everybody for that. The entire idea is you don't want people to race to do who knows how many tickets. Keep it level. The randomized random assignments are good, but let's say if you keep track of how much work or off of those project planning numbers is left to that there, you can potentially even out the spread a little bit for difficulty between users. Okay. Any other questions or anything here? Yep. Okay. DevOps built off of, well, I would say more than anything, containers built off of DevOps for that there. It involved, you've got virtual images there. With cloud, you've started off with virtual machines, generally in the cloud, network everything there, and that's it. Then finding out, well, if you make things, the workload, like in Agile, you're making the workload smaller. So you're not doing huge bits of work there. But what if you do the same thing with individual parts of applications there or servers there? So you're not running massive virtual servers on AWS there. You're just running you start running multiple, but the cheapest servers out there. But with the cheapest servers out there also, they can be activated whenever you want. You can shut them down wherever you want there. So you could scale them out for that. You can increase, or you can increase the power, how much they need there. And at that point, once you're doing the automated scaling of that there, you've got Kubernetes for that there, the orchestration of that. So literally the concepts from Agile helped push the general basics of virtual machines in the cloud to something that's actually functional as what we know as Docker or Kubernetes, where individual parts are smaller, more unique, and contained for that there. And it's an outgrowth of the basic concepts in Agile into development, into actual infrastructure. Okay, that all? All right. Once again, thank you very much for coming to the talk here, and I'll have the slides on SlideShare. I'll link it out for hopefully today or tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.